You are listening to episode 142 of the Confident Coaches podcast, the one where you lean into your metamorphosis and the goo. Yeah, let's go. Welcome to the Confident Coaches podcast, a place for creating the self-confidence you need to do your best work as a life coach. If you want to bring more boldness, more resilience, and more joy to your work, this is the place for you. I'm your host, Amy Latta. Let's dive in. Hi, my coaches. Oh my goodness, it's so great to just have a conversation with you today. No interview, and I'm about to share with you a lot of what I personally have worked through, decisions that I've made this year, and why it was totally worth it. This is a heart-to-heart from so much love, mostly for myself and therefore through to you guys. I think the conversation that we're going to have today is one we talk about on the periphery and we understand it intellectually, but I really want to dive in to the goo that is growth, to the goo that is metamorphosis, and share with you why you want to do it, what it's required of you, and why you don't have to do it until you're ready. And there's a part of this conversation, and it's not the focus of this episode, but there's a part of this conversation that also has to do a little bit of the state of the coaching industry right now. Factions and like this group over here and that group over there. And how I'm seeing how that factors into our resistance to really deep diving into our own personal growth. Because being in camps and being on team this person, team that person actually conflicts with a huge requirement of growth. So you ready to have this conversation? Let's do this. So obviously when I'm talking about the goo, I want you all to picture, this is a well-worn meme. This is not an Amy Latta original in any way, shape, or form. But we hear it all the time of a caterpillar does not transform into a butterfly without completely dissolving itself and transforming. The caterpillar forms a chrysalis around itself, completely turns into a pile of goo, and reforms, its parts realign and reconfigure, and then it breaks out and it's a butterfly. It literally goes from one distinct creature, being, into another, but not without the complete decomposition into a pile of goo. We get this metaphorically. And we're like, yeah, I'm like, let's do it. That's what we do as life coaches, right? So really understand this, that as life coaches, we understand that we can change the entire trajectory of our life by making small shifts in our thinking, and that we are creating transformation for ourselves, and that it's not necessarily better. You are not better. You are not a better human being there than you are here, but your experience of life may be enhanced. It's still going to come with crap, but you actually are going to expand your experience of the world when you're willing to go through these transformations. And I think I've had this conversation with you guys before. I'm not a new life coach. I opened up my doors as a coach in January of 2013. I am recording this in July of 2022. I started my own personal weight loss journey in 2012 and then decided to become a coach to help other people. It wasn't until 2016 that I got certified and I really understood the thoughts and feelings that drive the actions and results. So my coaching business on the front half was all actions and results. And it wasn't until I got certified through the life coach school that I became, oh, okay, so there's circumstances and thoughts. The model, we've talked about it 100 gajillion times here on the podcast, right? It really wasn't until I did that work that I really understood the mental transformation, right? Like we talked about it, like inspirational porn and inspo light, transformation light, right? And maybe that's the term here. Like how many of you are in like transformation light and how many of you are actually willing to dive into it, and why one is not necessarily better than the other. If there's one message to get through this, I'm going to share you my metamorphosis. I completely and how I'm kind of still technically in it. I'm not entirely sure I'm flying out as a butterfly just yet. I'm going to invite you here while also saying where you are right now is also okay. If you get one thing from this podcast, it's not judgment of where you are now and you have to do this. Otherwise, you suck as a coach. No. I'm doing this in 2022 and I got certified in 2016. And I've been coaching since 2013. Okay, so no judgment here. But I really want to share with you that this has been a long time coming. I like to think of when I started my coaching journey in 2013, I was in one kind of coaching room. I'm going to use a metaphor of rooms because I don't know how else to explain it. And I think the concepts I'm going to share with you are fairly high level of thinking conversation that we're going to have. The best way that I can describe it as, I want you to imagine that when I started my coaching business, I was in a certain type of room. And in that room, it was a direct sales based weight loss coaching. I coach you every single week, but I'm selling you weight loss supplements through a direct sales model. So my payment was in direct sales commissions and, recruiting other people. It was not in you paying me to coach you. Right? So I'm in that kind of room where that was when I was first introduced to a lot of self-help. That was when I was first introduced to a lot of authors and thought leaders. That's not what I called them at the time. That introduced me to this idea of punching fear in the face and doing what scares you and believing in something bigger than where you are right now. So I was in that kind of room and I struggled in that room because ultimately, I didn't really love doing the sales part. I loved doing the coaching part, but not the sales part. But I moved through that space fairly quickly because I knew pretty quickly it wasn't my best place. I never really felt comfort in that space. I was good at what I did, but it really wasn't me. And so then I'm introduced to the Life Coach School through the Life Coach School podcast back in 2015. I'm being introduced to, and ironically, ideas that I actually had been introduced to. Thoughts Create Things was not new to me in 2015. I would have sworn to you that was the first time I'd ever heard that. Facebook Memories, however, showed me that way back in 2008 and 2010, I was posting things like Thoughts Create Things by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It just was the first time that it really landed and I was able to relate it to coaching. And I kind of feel like then I entered into another room, the LCS room, or that kind of level of coaching where I felt very wide-eyed, very in awe, also very aware that I was a capable coach. But here were a bunch of examples of other coaches that were creating something that I had not previously conceived of. And I slowly moved through, over the past 5.5, 6 years, through that room. I kept putting myself in situations to continue to grow, and I kind of moved through that room. But it was still contained, right? I still was gauging what was possible for me by the examples set by the other people in that space. So do you understand what I mean by rooms? Now, I felt for the past 5, 6 years, I've definitely moved through that and I've had these smaller mini transformations. I totally would have told you at the time that they were ginormous transformations until I experienced what I experienced this spring. And all of that was good. And all of that is perfect. And I would have told you that my, graduation, for lack of better words, graduation from that room would have been marked by some insane dollar amount, right? I graduate from that room when I became a $10 million coach or a $25 million coach. And that's when I found myself in a new space. And that's not necessarily what happened. I am still a multiple 6-figure coach. And my time in this room has been shaped by a variety of mentors who I'm so grateful to, who I'm so appreciative of for teaching me what I needed to work through that space so that I could then get to where I found myself this spring. Where I found myself this spring was a beautiful brainstorming session with my mentor at the time of here are my 2 programs, suddenly so clear to me who I was, what I was selling, the importance of what I was selling, why these offers were the best reflection of me. And these conversations that I'm having over here coincided with my enrollment in the Advanced Certification for Feminist Coaching, and then my enrollment in a small class hosted by my coaching school called Reinvention. And I kind of feel like these 3 things, this is going to be a mixture of very high-level concepts and really silly cliches. The butterfly transformation, and when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Also, like these confluence of these 3 things was also kind of a perfect storm because suddenly I was being asked to challenge my way of thinking. I attended the Life Coach School Mastermind in early August, and I had this, I'm about to get really vulnerable with you. Everybody lean in here for a moment. You got your cup of coffee? I need you to lean in and love me, okay? I had this sense when I was there that I was receiving a lot of esteem and validation by being well known in other people's circles. Like as I moved through, now we're talking about like a literal room. As I moved through the rooms during the mastermind, I was very aware of my, for lack of better words, a pseudo-celebrity status of like people just wanting to say hi and get to know me because they know me from these other places. And the value and the esteem and the validation, it felt like I could feel it. I could feel it in my body, the hits of adrenaline, the hits of love, the hits of worthiness. But also in my brain, I was like, Amy, I see you feeding off of this energy. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but there's something about this. There's something about this that it's time to change. And this was a very, very terrifying thought because, again, what have I just spent? I've just spent the past 5-6 years, at this point, 6 years, because the same week of Mastermind was 6 years to the date that I was in certification school. This was back when certification was 1 week in person. It might be that way now. I'm not sure. And so I've spent 5 years looking for, then achieving, and then kind of realizing that a lot of that, and this is very vulnerable for me to admit because I'm really sharing with you a coach who tells you not to seek validation from others and being very aware of the physical response I had in my body during that week of, oh, I'm getting a high from this. I'm getting a lot of my confidence and my esteem by other people telling me, I love seeing you on so-and-so's stage. I love watching these videos. I love seeing you and learning from you in these calls. So then reinvention comes around, and right out of the gate, we're asked a couple of things. First, we're asked to have other people tell you what they see in you that maybe you need to hear. And while everybody else told me that I just need to believe myself more, one person, and if she's listening to this, she knows who she is, said, I was watching you at Mastermind. Do you realize you were doing this thing? And she called me out on the very thing that I realized that I was doing. And just asking the question, who are you not in those communities? Who are you, Amy Latta? If you are not building your business associated with somebody else's platform, not off of somebody else's platform, but in tandem with or in association with, who are you 100% on your own? What I now understand is like, that's the question of who am I, not in that metaphorical room that I've been in for the past 6 years. Very uncomfortable question. Did not like it. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend in that moment, except now it's a 10 out of 10. And then the other questions we were asked to answer are, what decisions have you made years ago that you are still living the result of today? And do you want to keep that decision? Do you want to make a new decision? Anybody who took the reinvention class I know I don't know how many people, but I know that there were, I don't know, maybe 1,000 coaches. I honestly don't know how many coaches. So I don't know how many of you even know what I'm talking about. But this was a very powerful question. And it's a question that I've used with my own clients. What decisions have you made in the past that you are still living the result of today? And would you make that decision again? Do you want to change that decision? Now, I'm doing that work in tandem with the patriarchy work of the feminist certification. And seeing that and really seeing that some of the decisions that I've made, I would do differently, but I understand why I made them. I love that I've always had a mentor by my side because I did need that in the beginning to be in that group, to be able to have a mentor by my side, to help me believe I could do something I'd never done before, to rely on peers to boost me up. It did get me through things. There are zero regrets. And also, let's make a new decision. Also see that many of my decisions that I've made have been informed by what I think I should do. That any coach that's in N position always goes to M position as opposed to Omega, right? Or like 27, right? Like, that I've been following this very A to B to C to D path as I've been in this 5-year metaphorical room. And it's been beautiful and it's been wonderful. And I have zero regrets. But maybe it's time that I move into a room that's colors or numbers or something completely undefined. Terrifying. Here's the thing. I didn't have to do it. And you may find yourself in these places. I guarantee you, hindsight being 2020, my past 6 years in this metaphorical room of here's an example of all these other coaches showing me what is possible. I guarantee you I had multiple times to go into an entirely different direction. I wasn't ready. And that is okay if you aren't ready. But in this moment, in the month of April 2022, ironically, my birthday month, the year I'm turning 48, it became very obvious to me. It was time. It was time to re-examine every decision that I've made in my business and decide what the new decision was. What does it look like? I'm getting emotional. What does it look like? Truly clear the table. If the early phase of my business was the direct sales room that I never really found a footing on, but it led me to the middle room where I've been in the past 6 years of all of these brilliant coaches who've taught me so much, who have been by my side, and how my peers and every single one, and how much value and how much work that I did. And I had opportunities to find out what was in the next room, and I wasn't ready yet. But in April, it was so clear. What if we clear all of that? And I want you to visualize this idea of you enter into a room and it's full of all of these amazing, brilliant people. And you slowly, for me, over the course of 6 years, work your way through that room, getting closer and closer and closer to those people who are leading the room, only to find that when you get to the other side, there's a door calling you. And even though everybody else is staying in that room, or maybe they're entering into other doors, right? You burst through into that next room. This is what I did in April. Goo, my friends. This process becomes goo. Here's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is now I am in a completely new room. I previously wasn't even aware that it existed. And I'm the only one here that, as far as I can tell, there's no model for how this room works. I also have the knowing that I've been headed towards this room since January of 2013. And every decision I've made has led me to this place. Here's also this beautiful knowing that I have. And this knowing was helped by seeing my energy worker, who I've done a podcast on a couple weeks ago, and I'm teaching some of her energetics and some of her neurochemistry at the live event for Path to 100K in a couple of weeks. Actually, by the time this airs, it's probably going to be next week. I also have this knowing that while I can't see it, I want you to visualize a string of like patio party lights. They are all lit up. The path from here is already determined. My subconscious and my higher power have been waiting for me to get here. And all the lights are lit up. I just don't quite see them yet. And as long as I trust the process, the plan's already there. I just have to keep moving forward. That's the beautiful side. Here's the ugly side. Because what being in this is a very gooey metamorphosis. I have been devolved into a pile of glue. Everything that I understood that I should do, I'm questioning all of it. There's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows. Some days my belief in like my power is so high, my skin can hardly contain my energy. And then I have long periods of, oh, fuck, what have we done? Sometimes those waves last minutes. They've lasted for hours. I actually was in a wave of that gooey doubt for like 3 solid weeks in the month of May. Ugh. Oh, it was not good. And then I came out of it, and then there I've kind of flushed back into it. I've actually just come out of a 10-day kind of goo stance. Here's the thing. Why we struggle with this is, first of all, we think there should be a timeline on the amount of time that we spend in the metamorphosis. Like, number one, you can't put a timeline on your metamorphosis. Okay? Ideally, like I would have really preferred that I answered these questions back in April. I made some decisions, and then I just like was in the new place. It's like The Good Place. If you know that TV show, right? Like now I'm in the new place. But no, there's like a whole, if you ever watched The Good Place, when they were like moving between worlds, there was always like this weird like, right? And that timeline takes as long as it takes. Like, after a week of just wanting to lay on the couch and not feeling energy and really like, I was going to be doing a lot more this week, I needed somebody ended up being my sister, not a life coach, by the way. My sister going, like, what's the timeline for how long you should just want to lay on the couch and not doing anything? And I was like, oh, that's one of the questions I ask my clients. Oh, dang it. And then I was like, oh, that's right. There's no timeline to this. And there's no timeline to this. I can just allow myself to go in and out of the waves. It is uncomfortable. And one of the reasons that we struggle with this, there's so many reasons that we struggle with it. You know, we put a timeline on it. It's because we really don't like being in the messy middle. We like being, you are either this or you are that. You are either this method or you are that method. You're either in this room or you're in that room. You're either completely affiliated with the school or you're not completely affiliated with the school. You either back this mentor or you don't back this mentor. You either believe this thing or you don't believe this thing. This is very patriarchal thinking, by the way. And as a side note, this isn't what this episode is about, but if you've been following on Instagram, a couple of weeks ago, I posted the option to post anonymous questions to me, and I found a lot of people very angry with me, to the point of calling me gross, deceitful, a liar, a bad feminist. I thought that one was hilarious, when feminism is what led me here. Right? I'm like, I don't know if you know, that doesn't make no sense. A lot of times people don't want you to change. That's very real. I really want to hold space for you if one of the reasons you're not yet ready is because you're not yet ready for people's reactions. That's legitimate, man. It's very legitimate. I also want to share with you that you can handle that. You really can handle anything coming your way. And I really saw this desire in the coaching industry to group people. Oh, you're one of so-and-so's people. No, you're one of so-and-so's people. Oh, are you still affiliated with so-and-so? Oh, I would never be affiliated with so-and-so. I actually had someone, this is definitely getting vulnerable. I actually had someone who doesn't like one coach I'm like tangentially like have a relationship with. Like over here, it has nothing to do with any business program I've ever been in. It's just a coach over here. I understand that you've worked with this person or you know this person, you're friends with this person, and here's everything I hate about them. And because I hate that about them, I would never work with you. Coaches, we have to stop undermining each other. We have to allow the other people in our life, and especially the other coaches in their life, to make decisions that are the best thing for them, and it's not a personal affront to you. This is one reason why we avoid the goo, because we know people are going to be like, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be in more than one place at the same time. It's not okay. Now, they're wrong, because that is what transformation is. It is being in multiple places at the same time. It is thinking multiple things at the same time. It is feeling multiple things at the same time. We don't just go from point A to point B, boom, boom. We have to dissolve into a pile of goo and pull ourselves back together. And there are highs and lows, and it's a roller coaster, and it's very uncomfortable. And then other people's witnessing of us going through that also can be uncomfortable if you aren't fully prepared. This is why I teach what I teach in my free to paid coach and my path to 100K, how to be okay that other people don't like what you're doing. This is a fundamental lesson people in both groups learn. You have to learn to be okay that people will not be okay with what you are doing. This is why I was fully prepared to go through this metamorphosis. Because lots of people were not okay with my decisions. Lots of people were not okay witnessing me be multiple things at the same time as I went through this transformation, and a lot of judgment. This is not okay. Thank goodness I have all of the tools that I talk about on this podcast. I was more than capable of separating their thoughts about me versus what I understand about me. That I am not bad just because somebody thinks what I've done is bad. And my willingness, there's an old podcast about like how to take back negative or how to receive negative feedback and answering those questions. Where might they be right? What might they see that I haven't considered? And what don't they know? 99% of the people have no clue that this level of metamorphosis is going on this side of the table. So most of the comments I got that were negative, I got a whole heck of a lot that were positive too, but most of the negative feedback, they don't know what's going on this side of the table because I'm still in it. And that's okay, and I can just love them. Some people did call out some stuff that I have addressed. I'm like, you are right. I will change the way I talk about that. Thank you for pointing it out, because they came to me from a sense of love, and I received that and gave it back to them. Because in order to get through the goo, you need to be able to celebrate nuance. I don't know if you've noticed, but the state of the world really doesn't like nuance right now. Like, what's going on inside the coaching industry where we want to like put people into camps and groups and say you are either with us or you are against us? Very patriarchal thinking, by the way. And somebody who called me a bad feminist actually did present you are either A or you are B. Feminism is clarity and kindness. And I'm like, I don't know. Saying you're either A or B sounds a lot like what the patriarchy would say, right? Because how you get through the goo is celebrating the nuance of things. There's not a lot of examples of that right now in our culture. And so you really have to make a concerted effort. Of course, it's bleeding over into the industry because even coaches are human beings. You need to be able to engage in thoughtful discourse in order to get through this goo stage. The thoughtful discourse might be the Helga and the Gigi conversations in your brain. It might be having a conversation with somebody who doesn't understand what you're going through. I don't understand why you've made this decision. I don't understand why you're making this change. I thought we were on the same page over here, and now you're not even in the same room anymore, Amy. Your willingness to engage in thoughtful, loving, compassionate conversation, and to always consider context. Of course, on the surface, many of the things that I've decided may not make an ounce of sense because I have devolved into a pile of goo over here. I'm making sense of it. Of course you can't possibly make sense of it. But if I can put that into context, if I can witness somebody else going, I don't understand what they're doing over there. They're clearly going from a point A to point B. And so I can engage with them and consider the context of what they're going through. Why do you even want to do this in the first place? Because some of you just listen to that part and they're like, said, that sounds terrible. Don't want people judging me like that. Don't want people giving me feedback like that. Plus, I personally am going up and down and up and down and up and down. That sounds terrible. Here's why. It's amazing. Here's why it's so worth it. First of all, I'm coaching a gajillion times better. Both of my programs, especially my Path to 100K, because I'm getting ready to start that one. I think by the time this comes out, because I did bring applications back open again because I got sick during when they were open before. I think they might be closed by now, but by all means, go ahead and click on the link at amylatta.com/mastermind and see if the application is still there. We meet next week and I'm planning that live event. So all of this is happening and my clarity, what's really, I've like pulled so much extraneous bullshit out that I used to put in there because I thought that value meant more and more and more. It's actually a way pared back. The Path to 100K process is such a pared back process than anything I've ever taught before. And what I have added is the neurochemistry, is the energetics, is the being able to point out where the patriarchy is telling me this is okay, but this isn't okay. My coaching in the current mastermind as well as in free to paid coach is so much faster, cleaner, crisper because I have gone through this and I have experienced this myself. Other reasons that you do benefit from going through these transformations, I can tell you this, I have so much less drama about what's going on with the people around me. So much less drama and so much more ease. I had somebody Marco Polo me this past week going, I've heard a lot about this going on and this going on and this going on. I'm just kind of wondering, I don't know, well, what's going on with you? What's your take on all that? And I was like, I don't know. It's like, not my circus, not my monkeys, even though it was 100% my circus. Like my drama and my sense of ease, if we aren't talking about ideas and concepts and loving and gratitude and transformation, I am not interested. I have so much less drama and I have so much less FOMO. People signing into brand new masterminds that never previously existed that I would totally be a fit for. I'm like, oh, didn't know about it. Okay. Oh, Amy of 6 months ago, Amy of a year ago, I am like foaming at the mouth to get into that room. But I'm in a new room now. Like every single one of my past mentors, save one that I can think of. So if I've had 10 or 11 business mentors, there's really only one of them that I can think of that doesn't offer some sort of business mastermind that I could technically go join right now. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to see what I can do here in this room on my own. I still got tons of peers. I still have all of that I've learned. I shun none of it. I'm grateful for all of it. I'm going to go put it to work now. I got no FOMO, very little drama. I mean, I still have drama because I'm a human being. I haven't turned the human being off inside of me. But it's just it'll go oh yeah, that should be something that I really don't feel like getting that worked up about. All right, cool. And then I just move on. These different camps and factions I see, I'm not even in the same room, people. I also want to offer to you that you don't have to do that level of transformation if you aren't ready. What small shift can you go ahead and jump into? What small drama keeps coming up for you that you'd really like to go to work on and let go of? I think the perfect question, I've already shared it with you, but I'm going to share it again. I think it's great to start with. What are 5 decisions? And this is right out of the Reinvention by Brooke Castillo. I don't know where she got it from. I don't know if this is a Brooke Castillo original whatsoever. It is not an Amy Latta original. And that question is, what 5 decisions are you still living the results of today? What 5 decisions have you made in the past that you're still living the result of today? And just look at that. Would you make the same decisions? If not, are you willing to change just one of them? It's a great place to start. I love this question. I'm going to ask myself that question once a quarter. Because this new room that I am in, nobody else is modeling for me where I'm going. And also, this is why I know that this work is so freeing and so dramatic. Nobody else has modeled for me where I'm going. And also, I'm 100% confident that it's perfect and it's already figured out and I just have to keep taking steps forward. And keeping to take steps forward includes riding the roller coaster of goo. Just made that up. Also, if you aren't ready to do that, that is okay. Just start with one thing. Because it also comes back to truly believing that it's not necessarily better here. I'm not a better human being, but I can tell you my experience of life since I underwent this metamorphosis this past spring into this summer. The less FOMO, less drama, more ease, my experience of life is already significantly better. I owe nothing to no one except myself. And that feels amazing. That feels like freedom. That brings tears to my eyes. I want to be that example of what's possible to people. And also, where I was 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, was perfect for where I was then. And the same is true for you. I've always been the perfect coach for my ideal client at that time. Like part of the resistance to growth is the belief that growing must mean you aren't good enough right now. And that's simply not true. So I just want to invite you, because you're going to notice a lot of those changes, whether it's operating in a completely new space, like I feel like I am right now, or just moving through the space that you've been trying to move through. That right there is worth it. If less drama is worth it, if less FOMO is worth it, if more ease is worth it. And other people will notice. I did. And again, all of the negative feedback was almost all anonymous. Like I have no idea who said those things to me. People are really super brave behind an anonymous keyboard, right? But also, people have told me directly. I got an email just yesterday from one of my former clients who attended a live training I did this week. Side note, one of the things that I teach, before I get into what she said, one of the things that I teach in my mastermind, I realize that I can pair with me going up and down on the goo roller coaster. So one of the things that I'm teaching in the new Path to 100K mastermind, and you're going to have this completely parsed out at the live event that, again, is next week, is what do you really love to do? Identifying things in your business that you already do, that your superpowers are, that you're really stinking good at, whether other people have told you you should do it or not. One of the ways that I worked through this last bout of like kind of being in the goo, which was 10 days long, where I really didn't even want to get off the couch. One of the ways that I got through that was by going to, you want to know what I really love? I really love doing live trainings. I really love doing Facebook Lives. So I opened up Monday with a live training at noon, and a couple hours later, I was like, I'm going to do a Facebook Live in my free to paid coach. And I think on Mondays, I've already decided, my free to paid coach members already know that. Not only are you going to get a weekly coaching session every single Tuesday on Zoom, where you can be coached one-on-one with me, but I'm dropping in every Monday with a live Monday pep talk. Why? Because I love it. Because that energizes me. It's something I'm really good at. And no matter where I am in that doubt and that belief and that goo roller coaster, I know that that's a touch point that will remind me why I keep doing this. And so this message came from a former client of mine who watched both of those things. And she emailed me and she said, can I just say, you have grown so much over the last year or two. I love that you have found your own way, your own content, your own combination that works for you. I can see and I can feel the difference in your confidence, in your level of expertise, and your love of what you do. Not that you were mechanical before, but I could tell you were trying to fit into some predefined box and almost convincing yourself that you belonged there. Watching you now is such a pleasure. It flows. It's one aha moment after another, and it's fun to experience. You're doing amazing, my friend. So glad you continued a piece of my success story. Bawling, my friends. Bawling. Because I'm doing this for me, but having other people go, I see this in you. Is that still a form of seeking outside validation? Maybe. But I was already feeling that, like to see my growth reflected back at me through her words. It's like, that's how it feels. It's not just me. I knew that, and now someone else has actually held up the mirror to my face. This is what I'm inviting. this is what's possible. This is what happens when you lean into your metamorphosis. And if you're not ready for a full decomposition of the entirety of who you are, like I apparently went through this spring, it's okay. Just start with the simple question of, what are decisions that I've made in the past that I'm living today? And pick just one of them and decide if you would do something different, and what would that be? And understand this, everything that I needed to be able to go through this metamorphosis are the concepts that I teach in both of my programs. So free to paid coaches. So if you're coming to me, you have two options. There's actually technically three, but I'll get to that in a moment. There's two options. There's free to paid coach. The name of my programs are pretty self-explanatory. You're ready to go from free to paid. We're trying to get you your first paid client ever, get you to $1,000, get you to $5,000. It's everything you need. It's all of the foundational work. I tell you exactly what to do, and I give you the exact same 5-step process that I used to get to where I am now, that I used to get through that metamorphosis. It's literally everything that you need. And then once you're at that $5,000, then you move on to Path to 100K Mastermind, because Path to 100K Mastermind is for coaches who are a paid coach, and the belief that 100K is possible for them is there. In free to paid coach, you may not believe it yet, but we get you to that belief so that then you're ready for Path to 100K. And in Path to 100K, we're going to find what's working and what you love and do more of that. We're going to find what's not working and what you hate and do less of that. And then you're going to go try 100 more things so that you can add more to those what's working, what's not working lists. All while we come face to face with all of the rules you're afraid of breaking and create self-safety for you and regulate that nervous system for you so that you can scale that list to 100K. There is now a third option. I have opened up a couple of one-on-one slots. The one-on-one slots are not for people who need to go from free to paid or on the path to 100K. They are general life coaching for anybody that needs to overcome a certain obstacle, or it is confidence coaching for people who are already to 100K. I am not doing one-on-one for people that should be in free to paid coach or path to 100K, but I am doing one-on-one for general life coaching, and I am doing one-on-one for confidence for people who are already past 100K. So very, very few clientele there. Very high end, very in depth, a very deep dive right there. So free to paid coach, path to 100K, or one-on-one. And I invite you to look for your next metamorphosis and to grow with me and to stay with me. And until next week, let's go get paid, coach. Coaches, I have created a brand new freebie offer just for you podcast listeners. I created a brand new training called Stop Overcomplicating Confidence, because I see my coaches do it all the time, make this confidence thing way harder than it has to be. In this free training, you're going to learn exactly how you overcomplicate confidence, what's creating that, and how to stop it. Here's the best part. All of it, less than an hour. Less than an hour of your time. You will feel more confident in less than an hour, right? Yeah, friends, this is the best training I've ever done. So visit amylatta.com/podcast gift to get yours. Again, that's amylatta.com/podcast gift. Go now and feel more confident in just an hour. Thanks so much for listening to the Confident Coaches podcast. I invite you to learn more. Come visit me at amylatta.com. And until next week, let's go do epic stuff.